Hello everyone, today I'm going to tell you a story about a curse. In the late 1990s, there were 4 young men from country Y who went to Egypt to collect artifacts for their boss. Before leaving, their boss had one request: "I have plenty of money, please help me buy some valuable relics." So, these young men went ahead and purchased a batch of artifacts as per their boss's request. Just before they left, they noticed a peculiar demeanor from one of the antique dealers. The leader of the group approached him and inquired further. The antique dealer then revealed that he knew of a mummy with excellent preservation, but it was rumored to be cursed. Anyone who possessed it would be doomed to eternal misfortune. The leader of the group became intrigued and asked the antique dealer for more details. The story went back to ancient Egypt, and a princess fell in love with a gardener who tended to the royal gardens. The king strongly disapproved of their love, but the princess became pregnant with the gardener's child. Upon discovering this, the enraged king had the gardener executed and forced the princess to marry a general. On her wedding day, the princess, dressed in her bridal attire, unveiled her body before everyone, revealing strange symbols covering her skin. She publicly declared that the only man she had ever loved was dead, her child was gone, and she didn't want to live in this world anymore. She cursed herself to eternal darkness and anyone who came into contact with her, condemning them to endless misery. She then took a golden cross-shaped dagger and pierced her own heart. The king, heartbroken by what he saw, ordered that his daughter's body be preserved as a mummy in a tomb by the Nile. After hearing this story, the leader of the group initially scoffed but eventually paid the antique dealer for the mummy. The group managed to acquire the mummy through shipping and prepared to return to country Y. However, the following morning, the leader of the group mysteriously disappeared. The other 3 searched everywhere but found out that he had walked off alone towards the desert. When they reached the location, the leader was gone, and his fate remained unknown. As they continued their search, one of the remaining 3 was robbed and killed in an Egyptian alley. The remaining 2 were frightened and quickly fled back to country Y, reporting the events to their boss. Soon after their return, one of them fell ill with a strange disease and eventually died, while the other inexplicably became a homeless wanderer on the streets of country Y. These events were followed by the arrival of the shipped artifacts, including the cursed mummy. The boss, upon seeing the mummy, was delighted and placed it in a display case at his home. However, shortly thereafter, his wife and children were seriously injured in a car accident while out for a drive, leaving them severely wounded. Terrified by the sequence of events, the boss concluded that the mummy must possess a terrifying power. He decided to donate the mummy to the Y Country Museum. However, strange incidents occurred during its transportation. While the mummy was being transported in a carriage to the museum, the horse suddenly went berserk and charged into a crowd, killing 2 people. When the mummy was finally being moved into the museum, one of the movers inexplicably cut his hand on the coffin, causing it to slip and crush his foot. Another mover, 2 days later, died under mysterious circumstances at his home. The truly eerie occurrences began after the mummy was placed in the museum. Nighttime guards reported hearing crying and tapping sounds from the exhibit room, and one night, a guard inexplicably screamed and collapsed in the darkness. The other 2 guards were so frightened that they resigned the next day. The Y Country Museum authorities decided to store the mummy underground, hoping it would resolve the disturbances. However, just a week later, the museum's director was found dead at his desk, the cause of death unknown. Following these events, the mummy gained notoriety, and many media reporters rushed to cover the story. One journalist, while taking photographs, captured a distorted face in the corner of one of the pictures. A few days later, this journalist was found dead in his home, having committed suicide by gunshot for reasons unknown. The Y Country Museum then looked everywhere for someone willing to take on the mummy. They finally found a collector who was very wise and not afraid of the curse. As he collected the mummy, he contacted the most famous witch doctor in Europe at the time. After various rituals, the witch doctor said the mummy contained massive dark energy that no one could resolve, including himself. Seeing this, the collector immediately found a way to pass the mummy on to an archaeologist. In April of that year, this new owner boarded a cruise ship with the mummy, and for safety's sake, placed it next to the captain's cabin. Unfortunately, at 11:40 p.m. that night, the giant cruise liner collided with a hidden reef. Over 2,000 passengers and crew were killed, with only 300 bodies recovered. Was this still because of the princess's curse? Of course, with the sinking of the cruise ship, the princess's mummy also disappeared into the depths of the Atlantic Ocean. Just like the curse she had invoked, eternal darkness, and so the story comes to an end. Interested friends can share their thoughts in the comments section. See you next story.